with opposition team. My name is Wian as the proposition team, or we call it government, here to talk about our motion today, which is this house prefers a world where political resources are governed by the International Material Agency, ladies and gentlemen. Here I would like to talk about the definition first before starting to the argument. Critical resources means that resources like materials such as limited to oil, natural gas, or rare earth elements that are important, which is critical, ladies and gentlemen. And governance, the second one, is like controlled or managed by someone. If, ladies and gentlemen, research is like chemistry plus chemistry, and when they becoming one, they will become something like magnet or battery, ladies and gentlemen. And the next one is International Material Agency. This is a place where people manage critical resources in the high scale, such as worldwide, and like you just said, ladies and gentlemen, this is International Materials Agency, which is international and contains many countries on it. So let's move to the next argument. First of all, there are resources not becoming rare. This is why I agree with this motion. The second one, use the resource for a greater future and prevent misuse the function of resource. Ladies and gentlemen, the third one, have more responsibility if International Materials Agency, or we call it, summarize it, IMA, control it. Fourth, prevent conflict that will happen when they selling those research, ladies and gentlemen, and make a high trust for someone who want to buy it or sell it, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to explain the first argument. My first argument is that research not becoming rare. This is why a world where critical research are governed by the International Material Agency is important. It's because there are research that say every time something becoming hard, ladies and gentlemen, how to find, they will becoming rare. Have you ever heard about rare or something like that? That's because it is hard to find. And if the research like this is becoming hard, this will becoming rare, ladies and gentlemen. And everyone can find it everywhere. For example, when we're talking something like gas, oil, that because of the Strait of Hormuz case in Iran, USA, and conflict like that, that's conflict make us oil well in Indonesia because the Strait of Hormuz is being closed. That's what we call it the rare case. The next one, the second one, is use the research for a greater future and prevent misuse the function of research. There are studies that said when some important stuff being organized with an agency or big organization, high possibility that the stuff will save than being organized with one person only. This is really crucial, ladies and gentlemen. When the research is being managed with a good organization, they will use it for a greater future and not use for a random thing. And this will prevent misuse the function of this research, ladies and gentlemen. Someone won't use it if this is their responsibility. And for example, ladies and gentlemen, money. When you have money, ladies and gentlemen, you will save it, right? Save it and spend it at the same time. But if you want to save that money, ladies and gentlemen, you choose to save it on a bank. Despite there are many places to save, right, ladies and gentlemen? When you save it on the bank, that means that the bank will use that money for a greater future and save it for you. And that's prevent the misuse of the function of your money. That's for the example, because you trust the bank so much. So how this is related to this motion? This is related because we are trusting something. We are just trusting that bank, ladies and gentlemen. We are trusting our money, which is, let's say this is research, the same one as the money, to the bank, which is International Materials Agency, and the bank will use the research for a greater future and prevent something like misuse of that money. And the third one, have more responsibility if International Materials Agency, ladies and gentlemen, control it. Psychology research said that responsibility comes from fear. If they are a big organization, they are feared to do something that bad. That's why this is really crucial, ladies and gentlemen. With a great rule, they will think about something that prevent a punishment and will work well. And they will wanting something bad and misuse that. Like I just said, ladies and gentlemen, they will have more responsibility in that research if they are a big agency like International Material Agency, ladies and gentlemen. For example, there are organizations, let's say this is English Club. The English Club have a money responsibility from the students. And as an organization that big at school, we as the leader of the organization, ladies and gentlemen, will have more responsibility to control that money so that they won't go and misuse for the bad future, ladies and gentlemen. How this is related? Because this is responsibility we talk about, ladies and gentlemen. If International Materials Agency have a responsibility, they will use that research for a greater good and not for a bad one. And let's next to the last argument. Prevent conflict that will happen when they selling those research and make a high trust for someone who want to sell or buy the research. There are studies that said 88% people trusting to buying or selling in an official place that trustworthy. And that's correct, ladies and gentlemen. If you are want to selling something or buying something, you need to check out if that really are a trustworthy place or not, right, ladies and gentlemen? So this will prevent conflict like bad thing, ladies and gentlemen, that will happen when we are selling and buy those research. How this is related, ladies and gentlemen? Because where the critical research are governed by the International Material Agency, this means that this is real use for the greater good for the future. And this prevent conflict that will happen when they selling those research. There are no conflicts such as like that. That's all for me. Thank you.